No, you don't have to say those words again. Oh no, and you don't have to. No, you don't have to go and explain yourself, 'cause I ain't gonna listen. Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember it all. Yeah, you tore it apart down to every last piece. Yeah, a souvenir, another story to tell. And I gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place. 'Cause it never ends, it's there in all ways. It's evident you never change for our sake. Maybe I can't trust it. We're falling now. Your little black book ran out of pages. If you're gonna take it all, then baby, don't waste it. You only want it if you know you're gonna break it. Just another souvenir for the take, yeah. Just take it. Baby, just take it. No, you don't have to say those words again. Oh no, and you don't have to. No, you don't have to go and explain yourself, 'cause I ain't gonna listen. Yeah, all you wanted was a souvenir to remember the fall. To go and tell your friends you were there for it all. A souvenir, just a little postcard for the road. And I just gotta know how to find happiness in the wrong place. 'Cause it never ends, it's there in all ways. It's evident you never change for our sake. Maybe I can't trust it. We're falling now. Your little black book ran out of pages. 'Cause if you're gonna take it all, then baby, don't waste it. You only want it if you know you're gonna break it. Just another souvenir for the take, yeah. Just take it. Baby, just take it. Just another souvenir for the road. That's the way it goes. Just take it. Baby, just take it.
Tries to hold on to the bottom. Here comes Gisette. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Foul trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the triangle. No, Rocky up and into the air.
They're beating and banging! Burn on the bottom, Cosman up top!
Kaufman, I think. No! Breyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no! At the line, Thunhorse pulls the win out at the stripe.
Oh, he saves it! What's going to happen here?
Here comes the canvas.
Get this pencil!
Get your foot in. He got it. got it! He's got it!
This is gonna win.
This is the hottest meal ticket in town right now. When it comes to endurance racing, especially in the American time zone, it's very, very tough to get yourself a good race. But here, this is probably the track and car combinations which say this is a match made in heaven. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway, the place where endurance racing often finds itself found. It's the 12th season, and of course, it's the 4th round of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and it's here with FTF.GG. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a very early morning for me, and good evening to all you race fans out there around the world. My name's Jake Sperry. Joined alongside me today is Bill Soup Zahn and Mitchell Johnson in for the ride. Soup, I'll come to you first because this has been such a very important season, this 12th season going through. It's 90 minutes today around a very, very cool endurance track. There are 62 cars wanting to get themselves to the top, and it's LMP2s with the Dalaras, and then you got GT3 on top of that. Your focus today will be the LMP2s on what is probably one of the coolest new additions to the iRacing service.
Indeed, the first 2 rounds has all been what we call the mantra. Jeffrey Ohms, as he won the first 2. Then he ran into trouble in round number 3, and that's going to allow Nathan Olson to be at the top of the points. But remember, there's drop races in this thing, so we're early on. That'll play out more as we go along. The guy to watch out for, really fast in qualifying, Dian Fiallo, really quick. The competition in the prototypes is steep, Jake. Man, it is, what a better place to have it than at Sebring.
What a better place indeed. And Michael, you know, we've been seeing the GT3 field, and of course we've got GT3 Pro and GT3 AM. They're all out there trying to put their best lap times forward, and we talk about this track being such a very difficult one and very susceptible to conditions, and I think none more so than today. The wind is howling today at Sebring.
The wind is fierce at this track. It really will screw up your lap time if you're dependent on a section where you're really fast being suddenly in a headwind. That's no fun because it'll just tear up your time. It easily drops a tenth, as I was doing some practice earlier on with a group and found exactly that problem. So it is gonna be a little bit of a chess match with how these guys get these cars set up to be able to handle this wind, but I don't think anybody's going to have too much of a problem with it because everybody in this field is just a rock star.
Absolutely, and they've proven that here today, Michael. Mark my words. Everyone out there at exactly the same time, and the checkered flag is soon about to fall. It's been open qualifying so far here, Soup, which means that when that checkered flag falls, every driver who is out there on track has the chance to finish their lap.
Indeed, and we're going 90 minutes. So usually most of the races in the Autobahn series are 60. They have a few that are a little longer. This is one of them. Pit stops are going to be important. Michael, because you have more experience in this, what is slower traffic like on Sebring? When I've raced her, I never seem to have much of a problem.
Well, I've usually been the slower traffic. So I've been in a GT4 here. I've been in a GT3. But there's always been something faster. I was even in an ST car one time where we actually had some GT3s out there at the same time. And all you hear is a high-pitched whine. You look in your mirror and they're passing you. So it can be terrifying. But honestly, if you just be predictable, stay on your line, do what you're supposed to do, everything goes just fine. It's when you start trying to second guess things or you're in the middle of trying to make a pass or something that things can get a little wonky.
There are always troubles, but the final drives looking to push for times. Here's Paul Gibson on screen at number 31, out there in 11th position, trying to improve on time. 0.03 of a second is the equivalent of 2 places, and it's a 1:45.890, so those 2 places do improve. A sneak up inside the top 10 out there at this point. Wonderfully done over the course of racing. Still, though, more drivers looking to push. Nathan Olson having a great qualifying, up in 4th position overall, takes the very quick line over towards the line, but may have just had a wing plate over the wall, and that would have invalidated the lap. So there is currently your pole sitter, Dion Fiallo, and he finds himself on a 44.9, 0.3 clear of the rest of the field, and having a wonderful qualifying effort. That will bring qualifying then to a close. Nobody else out then on track here for this. So, Soup, you've got yourself an eye on the prototypes for today. Run us through how the top of the field looks.
It is the aforementioned Dion Fiallo at the top. Now, two-time winner Jeffrey sitting right behind him about, almost 0.7 of a second slower. Nate Despicable Me Gruselli is here in the 69 machine. He's going to be inside of row 2. He's going to be flanked by our last round winner. That's Nathan Olson. Row 3 is populated by Dan Neese and Paul Oh My Darling. David Williams, a veteran, is going to be inside of row 4. Billy Smith flanking him. Paul Gibson and Dominic Dornenberg going to make up row 5. Then you see the rest of those prototypes down the list that include Robert Tinsey. Some big names not making the top 10. Michael, who you got in the GTs?
Well, the G2 field's going to start off with Johan Shirazi in our pole position. Johan pulling a great lap time out there. I was just running that same car, and I think I need his setup. Right next to him is going to be Wayne Castile, Nathan Jew, alongside Ross Booth is the second row. Ryan Wasilewski, along with Bradley Haley, is going to be our first Audi out there. But then our first AM in this field. So the red is the pros, the AM is the green, and that's going to be Patrick McDaniel. Brian Bennett's next to him, Ryan Robertson in the Ferrari, and then Eric Thomas in the BMW is your top 10.
And it's such an interesting field when Patrick McDaniel is a mile ahead of the likes of Corey Ensing out there back in row 18. You've got a few drivers populated in the middle. Joey Atterbury's got a bit of work to do through a few of the AMs. Franco Margarella in there as well is going to be looking for some good work. But it's a absolutely bumper field that we've got going through. And what I think was very, very telling as we looked through the GT qualifying that was out there, Michael, is that it was all about one thing and one thing only: Porsches dominating the front 2 rows. What makes the Porsche good here today?
Because it's the best German car ever, except when I'm driving a BMW. But right now I'm driving Porsches, so it's the best German car ever. But honestly, the Porsche at this track, there's something about it. When you look along the pit row at Sebring and you see all the signs up there above the garages, it's just stunning how many of those are Porsche. It's Porsche after Porsche after Porsche after Porsche. Occasionally a Ferrari's thrown in there, occasionally a Ford's thrown in there, but the Porsche is so dominant at this track. And I really wish I knew what the magic formula was in the Porsche to make it so fast, but it is clearly the dominant car at this track. And honestly, in this league, they've even tried to slow it down a little bit, and it hasn't really had much of an effect on slowing these guys down.
Hey, Michael, we got Brian Wasilewski is here. He's got his McLaren. We got another McLaren here, though, today. Jimbo Pfeiffer racing one. So we got 2 of those cars.
All right. Fire spitters. Love it.
I love it.
I love it as well. And we're going to see today what makes this track really tick. This old airfield here in the Panhandle of the United States of America here in Florida. Soup, you look at overtaking opportunities on this track. Run into turn 1's going to be key, but from turn 1, you got the run to the hotel hairpin at turn 7. Maybe if you're brave, you can fight at the Cunningham corner and the Tower corner. But when you go through, you've also got that corner of 1,004 lines to deal with in Sunset Bend.
My God, that corner has more bumps in it than Tony Montano's coffee table. That's an old one. Sometimes the old jokes are the best ones, right? When you talk about overtaking, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm the guy who tries to get out of the way. That's why I brought that up to Michael. Sunset, I love Sunset, though, as a spectator. What a fun thing, because there are so many lines through there, and it's always so exciting. I love that one. What I really like, Michael, and you can maybe see if this matters to you as a driver, the first corner at Sebring is one of those rare corners where it's actually to the outside. You actually turn away from the center of the track. Does that ever matter to guys on the race, or it only matters to me? It's like colors of uniforms and that kind of stuff.
It might be just you. I'm not sure, but could be. I love turn 1 here. It's a lot of fun. I actually love turn 17. It's called Sunset Bend, but a lot of us just call it turn 17 because there's 17 ways into it and 17 ways out of it, and they're all correct. You can take any combination of those 17 and you're going to be fast. And it's almost just how you feel like you want to set it up, how you feel like you need to defend or attack in a particular corner. So it's one of those confounding corners that there's so many bumps, like you said, Tony Montana's table, but there's so many bumps through there, and how you set your car up to be able to handle those bumps and glide across them is going to make a big difference in how many of those 17 entries and 17 exits you're going to be able to combine.
Track temperature, just as we've been getting ourselves ready between qualifying and the race, has jumped up by somewhere around 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is going to be an interesting one. Track temp in Imperial is 31 degrees C. So that's getting right into the middle operating temperatures. Not too much oversteer, not too much understeer here today. The wind definitely gusting about from the east. So that's worth keeping in mind. The final drivers populate themselves then onto the grid because they have just 10 seconds right now to start on the grid, or they start from that place known as pit lane, and it will be a very, very short start here today in terms of a pace lap. They'll get a sunset bend to get the tyres up to temperature before they get themselves through towards the end. I'll get predictions then in two categories then. We'll have Soup, your prediction for the prototypes in LMP2.
Well, I'm a bit confused because I'm looking at car number 69, Nate Gruselli. Now, he's been horrible so far this season. He hasn't even had a top 10 yet, but he's sitting third. I like him. I think he's got this place figured out. Michael?
I'm not going to even pretend to make a prediction here because there's too many great options.
Well, there are too many great options, and there are a lot of drivers getting themselves ready. Welcome to Flag, if you haven't already. Rounding Sunset Bend, the pace car, the Porsche iRacing first safety vehicles in, and the jump is quick. Green flag in the air. We're racing here from Sebring. Dion Fiallo gets a good start, but Jeffrey Ooms will look out through turn number one because Nate Gruselski is going to try and look around the outside. He's not going to find a lane. He's going to have to fall back into line, and it's a nice, clean start when it's come through. And well, Michael, it's time to get GTs off and away.
They're rolling up. They have the green flag. He's holding off. Now he puts the pedal to the metal. He's off. This is going to be a good start for Johan Shirazi. He's got a good car length and a half out in front, able to pull out to the wall to get his preferred line going through there. Look at that gap he has created. Beautifully done. He's got the guys behind him fighting. He's got P2 and P3. That's going to be Wayne Castile and Nathan Ju trying to battle it out to hold on to second position. These guys need to sit back and let it happen. There's an hour and a half to go in this race. Fighting right now, not your best choice because you're just going to let your leader get away.
Not the best choice, and all of a sudden everyone starts checking up. That's Ross Booth now trying to go to the outside of Ryan Waszaleski, trying to get that move. He's going to do so on the outside, making that pass. Zhu on the inside, trying to get the pass of Wayne Castile, and Castile still has to stay, still has to be patient through the Fangio S's here, these two sweeping corners, and they're just allowing the race lead to rush away in the early goings. On the brakes then at Cunningham Corner, and Castile will finally get the clearance he's been searching for the entirety of the lap. Already your leaders, though, are heading up on towards Sunset Bend for the first time. And these are the first important laps really here, Soup, just to settle down, find a rhythm, know what quick is in these machines, because these are the only laps really in the race that you're going to have where you're not going to be worried about who's going to be around you and what traffic you have to race with.
Oh, and there's bumping going on for the lead right now. Actually, for second place, it was Gruselli as Olsen gets past. Let me correct myself. I guess right. Olsen gets the pass made on Gruselli. I also want to point out that David Williams, had some trouble going into the hairpin. He overshot his braking zone, got into the back of his teammate Billy Smith, locked it up. Williams lost a ton of spots.
Yeah, David A. Williams then is down at the back of the field. The pass then has just been scored for third place. Nathan Olsen through on Nate Gruselski. So Nate passing Nathan, and I believe the extra two letters in the name certainly helped out in terms of that move there, Soup. And what's key, I think, right now is that you're getting the first few drivers then a chance to break away. So Fiallo and Ooms clear at the front. Olsen just made the pass on Gruselski, but you got Paul Darling and Dan Neese who are both there, and they're happy to be there in 5th and 6th. The early stage is about building a gap, and they've already got the gap that they want behind to Billy Smith.
Indeed, Ooms has spent most of this season out in front. He had some troubles last time. We talked about that. But Fiala's really good. He's going to be hard to catch.
He's certainly going to be hard to catch. And I tell you, someone who's going to be hard to catch today is going to be the 95 of Patrick McDaniel here, Michael. We talked about how amazing his work in qualifying was as an amateur out there. He had himself a number of positions. He's up 7 places on Corey Ensing, who is second in the GT-AM category at this point, behind Mitchell Johnson in the 021. So these early stages, it's about finding out where the limits are. And you often find that this is one of the sort of tracks where you don't often see as many incidents, not because it's not a difficult circuit out there, just because the sheer amount of laps that people do for Sebring when February comes around.
And the big thing that happens here is what you just are watching as these guys are going around Tower, is you get a little bit too much dirt out there. Those are really the only incidents you're going to see. And yes, they do accumulate a few incident points by doing that, but it's not going to be enough to affect them through the course of this race. As far as nose to tail, door to door, banging mirrors or something, this is not a track that lends itself to that a lot. The straightaways are long enough and fast enough that you should be able to make your pass happen as you're running down that straightaway. So I don't expect to see too much, especially like going down into hairpin. You're almost always side to side. There's very rarely that late minute dive.
Yeah, and that's going to be key as well here, Soup. When you talk about the instant limit today, there are no drive-through penalty instant limits here, but in terms of the disqualification limit, it is 36 instant points, and then you are gone. If you equate that to over 90 minutes, essentially what you're saying is that every 1.5 laps, you're allowed an incident.
And a lot of times we talk about they don't have push to pass in these cars, but you can kind of save your incidents up and use them as, well, not maybe push to pass, but maybe incident to gain, or if you need to catch somebody, if you hang on to them. These guys are really good at monitoring those. Rarely do we get a disqualification, but rarely do we see guys race really clean as well. They know how to use them up.
They certainly do, and I think it's interesting a bit further back, 8th, 9th, and 10th at the moment. Carter Kundinger with Dominic Dornenberg and Paul Gibson. Those three, I think, are having an interesting race right now here, Soup. 8th, 9th, and 10th. And it's interesting for them because they've got a really, really strong train through this entire group. And they've got someone like Robert Tinsey, for example, who's probably seen everything in sim racing right behind them.
Well, interesting. Kundinger has worked his way through those guys. He's got around his teammate Dornberg, Gibson, and Tinsey. Tinsey back there noted for incredibly, they call him Bob the Blade because he's so good through lap traffic. Not an instance yet. But we'll keep an eye, though, on what the 0-2 doing as Kundinger and see if he can get up to the back now of Billy Smith, the veteran.
Yeah, so opportunities there in terms of trying to close down the time, and through the opening 6 minutes, it's been a calm affair out there. Not really too much to really shake a stick out there.
Got one going around. We just jinxed him. Dominic Dormant went into the hairpin. Missed his braking zone, spun around. He's parked it in the grass, trying to find a way out. He was running in 9th position at the time. He's going to be way down the list now.
Oh, Dornenberg is not going to be happy there as he finds the 913 in all sorts of trouble. And that's what makes the Hotel Hairpin a very difficult place to go out there and drive, because everyone wants to make the move there. You've got the chicane as well on the exit, and it's so easy to find yourself on the door and in trouble. There is Dion Fiallo, your overall race leader. Jeffrey Ooms just behind in second place, keeping him honest. The gap then 0.7 of a second, and continuing to be that close fought sort of battle. It's chilled down in the GTs, but Johan Shirazzi, who got a big gap, Michael, over the opening couple of laps, well, that gap sort of stabilized a little bit. Wayne Castile is putting in the laps. He was 0.2 quicker that last time by.
Yeah, it's sitting right at about 1.6, 1.7 seconds back and forth. I think it's a little bit of setup difference here. I'm looking at maybe a little more wing on one car than the other, so he's going to be faster when we get into Jean de Bien and Le Mans, but not quite as fast when we get into these long straightaways. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a setup differential, and we'll see how that plays out with tire wear. I'm a little concerned about how these tires are going to handle on these cars, because my own testing, especially with the Porsche GT3R, is over about 45 minutes, that left front really gets hammered. And if you get down to about 50%, it starts to lose its traction. And if you're going to run 90 minutes, well, that's going to end up being a tire with no tread on it. And iRacing will play it like it's a flat.
It absolutely will. It's the way to get punctures here in iRacing, and you don't want to be dealing about with that, running on the tyre carcass, so to speak, and it can put you in a whole load of hurt later on in this race. Mitchell Johnson, though, is starting to eye up an overtake here, just behind Jesse Lyon here with the 1:15, so just behind in the middle of this group. So there are still drivers looking about, and I tell you what, it's really throwing me at this point here, Michael, that you look at Jesse Lyon's car, it's almost like you've got the classic Ford livery being painted onto a Porsche.
Yeah, that's kind of the fun with iRacing. I love doing that, taking a livery like, let's say, the Ferrari F1 livery and putting it on a McLaren. It would never happen in real life, but it's a lot of fun to do here in iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We're going to step aside for one moment here with FTF.GG. We'll be back with more action of your Autobahn Sports Car Challenge after this. If you just joined us, you'd have seen that there have been issues right near the pointy end then of your LMP2 field. It involved both Paul Darling and Dan Neese getting caught up in a bit of an instant. It was the AM category driver, Mark Kedrowski, who got into the back under braking. Now, this is how easily you can get things wrong in the first cycle going through the lap traffic. The Ferrari outbrakes himself, nowhere to go, and in the middle soup of a chain reaction.
Indeed, those guys have been holding station from where they started, but they've been right next to each other the whole time, running in 5th and 6th. They're well down the order now. Traffic, Michael, through the... You got to get your GT3s to spread out a little bit. Some of my leaders get in there. Man, it is... They get into a pack of cars.
Hey, we got a race going on, too, down here. You got to let us race as well.
Oh, I'll tell you what, we just had a pass for second position because Jeffrey Ooms has lost out now to Nathan Olsen, who's got through at the opening corner. So Jeffrey Ooms, who you were noting, Soup, just as we were going through our break, was noting that he was really struggling in the traffic. Well, he's struggling so much, he's actually just lost second.
Yeah, Fiona just pulled away from him, and I don't know if it was not so much talent, just horrible luck. And now Olsen, who's coming off that win last round, moving up into third. And Ohms continues to struggle, but like Michael said, this one we have an extra 30 minutes, plenty of time. We've seen Jeffrey do some amazing stuff. It's early laps.
It's early laps, and as that just happened there, the moves of drivers trying to make their way through, Patrick McDaniel just lost a space there, Michael, to David Schutt. And I think David Schutt just realized that when the lap traffic's coming through, drivers are going to leave the door open, especially if you're the AM category leader. Sometimes you can really take advantage of that.
Oh, absolutely. You can play the pick from both sides of it, and I think that's something a lot of people get frustrated with because they don't understand it. Just because a faster class is going through, or there's a slower class that you're working your way through, you can use that to your advantage regardless of which side you are on. So if in this case an LMP2 gets up next to the person you're chasing, tuck in behind that LMP2 and follow them through, because you've got a chance of making a pass a whole lot easier than you could otherwise.
But Michael, I'll tell you this, a guy who's seen the blue flag a lot, there's a different attitude when you have the leader coming up behind you and maybe the guy who's running 4th or 5th in class. After a while, you got to say, all right, man, I got to start racing a little harder here. I think the leader gets a little bit of an advantage.
I think it depends on who you're talking to. From me, absolutely not. No, I have a race going on. You have to be as thoughtful and courteous about my race as I am about yours. If you've got P1 and P2 nose to tail, and I'm even P5, P6 nose to tail, we still have a race. So don't mess ours up. We'll try not to mess yours up. And usually you've got, like, at least in iRacing, you've got the ability to communicate through Discord or something like that, and you can kind of work it out. But in real life, not so much.
I can't wait to get back on the track now. I got a new attitude. Watch out.
There are a couple drivers down on pit lane. Matthew Gosh has been there for a while. Trent Brown's just dived in. So too Eon Simon has been down in the pits for a very long time. So a few casualties, mainly in the GTE AM category overall. So Dion Fiallo, your race leader. Nathan Olsen now in second, and Jeffrey Ooms in third. And that lead gap now here, Soup, out to what is 4 1/4 seconds at this point, looking just a bit further back. There is Johan Shirazzi, Michael, who he himself finds that gap didn't really change from his mantra. And both of you as a discussion point here, do you think that it's a lot easier for the GT traffic to stay relatively close together through a lapping sequence than the LMP category does?
Yeah. So the GT3s, I think, are in their groove, and the LMPs have to break out of their groove. And if the GT3s break their groove, it causes a lot of problems for the LMPs. So it's really, really important for those GT3s to stay predictable, stay on their timing, not letting it fall away, and let the LMP2s work their way around it.
Oh, that's trouble, and that's important trouble, because that is Nate Grzelski, then Soup, who is in the barriers at turn 6, the big bend, and that is not a traditional place that you tend to find a Dallara P217.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It was all him. There was nothing there. He just made a mistake. He was having a great run, had that great qualifying run, but now he's fallen well down the list. I want to quickly, Jake, let's go back to this story. Let's look at car number 02. This is Carter Kundinger. Now, with the mistake from Grzelski, he's now up to 5th position, and he continues to try to run down Billy Smith. Kundinger is really on a roll, up 7 spots.
It just goes to show that the early phases are important in terms of how the incident happened. It was just a case of Grzelski getting up on the curb a little bit too much, grabbed the grass ever so slightly, and the difference in grip between left-hand side tyres and right-hand side tyres was enough to spin the car over to the barriers on the the outside, as it were, on turn 6. But Kundinger having a really good race, trying to chase down Billy Smith. Not really too much traffic in front to really worry about at this point, but now is about just getting the good laps in for the O2. And it really does go to show you here, Soup, that effectively what you're trying to do here in this race is buy yourself a meal ticket. This has only been 19 minutes so far. You're trying to buy a meal ticket to be inside the final 10 minutes of this race.
Indeed. Now, if you look on the tower, you go down to 13th position. You see Joshua Wolf down there. We haven't talked much about him. He's all by himself. No reason to go there as he's working his way through traffic. I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's up 4 spots. Those guys in the back. Now, some of that's from attrition. Another driver who's picked up a few is right ahead of him in the number 90 machine. That's Vance Bow. They're having some good racing going on. It's hectic all the way through. But the battling, I don't think the battling is as close in the prototypes as it is in the GT3s. They do seem, Michael, to be a lot closer together.
Well, even back in the amateur class, I'm watching right now. I'm looking at Nicholas Davis. He is our 4th place amateur driver in the GT class. He has been closing this gap up. He has been getting closer and closer to Luke Schmidt every single lap, just inching away. And right now, I think he's in a very good position to kind of fuel save. If I were in his spot, because he is P4 in class, he doesn't need to make that push just yet. And if he can fuel save right here for a little while, then that's less fuel he has to take when they go in for their pit stop. And maybe he ends up making a pass in the pits.
It's a double-decker Porsche sandwich right now with Davis and Schmidt the filling and both sides of the bread being David Schutt and Corey Ensing, who are there just behind. Now, there's 2 BMW pieces of bread at this moment, Michael. So the question comes to the BMW, where is its strength when it comes to the Sebring circuit, especially when you consider that this is one of the few cars that BMW have designed for racing, with sim racing as its proving ground, its testing ground for how good this car can be in the real world?
The BMW has traditionally done well here, even in the M8 variant on the GTE in the straightaways. It has just beautiful ability to put the power down. Even coming off a corner, you might have that extra weight in the rear on these Porsches to get it down a little bit earlier, but the way the power hits on these Beamers, it is a thing of beauty, and you could really close it down quickly on any of the other cars in your class when you just nail that exit. And it might not do the corner quite as well as we see this one washing out just a little bit behind those 2 Porsches, getting maybe a little bit of wing wash there, but holding on as he heads down the straightaway. So he's ready to turn in now to turn 1. Can he close this up at all? Probably not through the corner, but wait until he makes the dash going down the straight into the hotel corner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the time to just stay patient, wait for the chances then. 3, 4, and 5. These fantastic flicks left, right, and left. And Soup, we haven't really talked about this, but this is going to be the last race, really, one of the last big races on iRacing before the brand new art update.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen to this track. I keep hearing it's going to be big. I keep hearing it's going to be small. I don't like any updates. I get used to a track. I like things to stay the same. I just heard that the Solstice is going away. Now, that really hurts my feelings.
Everyone's loved the Solstice. The Solstice has been a car of the ages. It will move to legacy content, and because of that, it'll be free for new users when you jump on to iRacing. Nicholas Davis still stuck on the outside through the Cunningham corner, and then having to shut the door down. Luke Schmidt said to Corey Ensing, no chance there, Michael. You're going to get that chance to go through. You're going to have to sit and wait and watch me try and pull away on the Flying Fortress straight.
Yeah, there's just 3 amateurs right here trying to battle it out, trying to get their way up into a better position. But man, are they really hitting on the hard parts of this course. They are slamming up on these curbs, really unsettling the cars. They need to take just a moment, take a tiny bit of a breather, and let the track come to them. And right now, I think we're going to watch. See how I was talking before, how this BMW catches them up on the straight? Now, the one Porsche is not catching the other Porsche, but that BMW closes up the gap very quickly. And I think Corey Ensing picked the right car for the way he likes to drive.
I think he does, because he's going to be tucked up underneath, and he's now got himself an opportunity here at this opening corner. Try and work out the pass to turn number 1. Pivots over to the inside, has a little look, But, big miscommunication in the middle for Luke Schmidt. He abandoned there. The car was trying to snap away from him. Now this is a very awkward rejoin there. Takes a cone for company, but gets back out on track. Luke Schmidt did very well not to join into the path of Cameron Bidwell there, which would have been very, very awkward. But that sometimes, turn one, can be a very frustrating corner, Michael, when you consider that if you don't have the line that you want, you're pretty much off balance, and the car looked very much off balance through there.
It looked off balance for sure going through one, and I think there was a little bit of surprise. It looked to me like he wasn't quite aware that pass was being made, but I got to give him props and maybe take the A off of his name, because wow, the way he handled the car in the dirt and through the grass, I was certain it was just going to go endo, but no, never touched a wall. Just kind of drifted it through there beautifully. That was some amazing driving. Maybe he should get the drift version.
Maybe he should. Soup, P12 prototypes. Vance Bow at this moment in time has found himself company in the form of Josh Wolf, and it's going to get busy behind him as he tries to get past Tom Hammond at this point, because after Wolf is the recovering Dan Neese, who's actually come in and made a pit stop already in this race. You got Mo Islam and Dominic Dornenberg, who of course had that spin earlier on. Dan Neese is a lap down, but Vance Bow gets himself just enough cover on the brakes in towards the hotel hairpin. This is suddenly starting to look like the Vance Bow train.
Well, we talked about what Wolf has done up 4 spots, but Bow actually started behind him and has got around Wolf and continues to climb even a little bit farther. Wolf, though, is, I don't want to use this pun, but is hunting Bow. And the real thing is, what is Neese going to do? Now, remember, Neese, we talked about, has made that stop. I'm not sure if that's in the window, Jake. Maybe it is. Boy, it seems awfully early. I think that's a repair.
Yeah, I think it was to do with damage, and because Dan Neese was caught up in that early instant, of course, just when we came back to pictures here. 1 hour, 4 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock here at the Sebring International Raceway as we watch the race on for 12th position at this point. Look at the drive there, Sue, that Vance Bow got. Josh Wolf had a bag of squirrels in the back trying to get the car put down.
Yeah, and I think he's going to end up losing this spot to Neese here. Neese is going to sit back and relax a little bit on this one. This is the best race of all the prototypes. Everybody else separated, well, you can see on the tower, by at least 2 or 3 seconds. And that's with Fialo really running away with it. This is a good battle we've been watching. We'll see if Wolf, let's stay with this for just a bit longer. I got a hunch. Something's going to happen here. My spidey senses are tingling.
Well, there are spidey senses there, and because Dan Neese is lap traffic, Mo Islam is trying to figure out a way through. Now, this becomes a really awkward position here, Soup, for Mo Islam, because, of course, Dan Neese is entitled to be there and is entitled to feel like he can make passes on the group in front if he thinks he's quicker. The issue he's got, though, is he's stuck.
Yeah, now looking at this, here he goes. He dives it down in there, and he's going to get that done.
Yeah, unstuck, just like that. All you got to do is say that he's stuck, and then he'll go and get the move done. Dan Neese makes the position, and all of a sudden, away goes Bow, and suddenly Mo Islam's going to have to start looking. Now, I'm not sure Josh Wolf was too happy about that. Was going to have a little look to the inside to see whether there was a position to be had, but no, there was not. So that very much unable to make too much of a change. Now, you've been keeping an eye here on Patrick McDaniel, and he's lost quite a bit of ground. He's lost 2 places because we've got side by side. Both Jesse Lyon and Brian Bennett's found their way through.
Yeah, Jesse Lyon got through earlier in the lap. Brian Bennett just a moment ago. But it's still all okay for Patrick McDaniel. He is still in the lead of the amateur class, but these pros are really giving him a run for his money. He's down 3 positions total from where he started, but I think he may have a little bit in him to come back on this. I think he just got caught out into a bad spot with traffic coming through and trying to not mess up the pros too much.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case, and I am loving Brian Bennett and the way he's driving right now in the Audi, as through will go the race leader, Dion Fiallo, to put a lap on that group. That gap down to just 3 seconds now at the front. It was up over 5 at one point, but work's been done by Olsen to start closing that down. But I have been loving that Audi, Michael, and how much of the Audi's success comes in that middle sector of the lap with that shorter wheelbase?
that short wheelbase really does help it to be able to change direction quickly. So when you get in through non-turn 2 into turn 3 and have to go back and forth, and then after you come out of the hotel and go through Cunningham and Collier, when you're doing that section of the track, that short wheelbase really helps the car rotate so much faster.
Oh, it really does. And Patrick McDaniel has found that out firsthand because he can't get close. Just behind them as well, Ryan D. Robertson is there as well, trying to get in on the pick and the mix, trying to work out where the pass is going to happen. But through Sunset Bend, not going to quite manage it. And on the exit, there's Jeffrey Ooms. It's going to go through as well. So the chase is very much on. Robertson then gets a great drive, and Patrick McDaniel there, I think, just lifting off a little bit then and just left himself a bit vulnerable, Michael.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the bad thing to do, especially when we've got an hour left in this race. We are almost right on the hour mark, and you got a pit stop coming. You've got a lot of traffic management coming up, so I'm not too put off by his needing to lift off a little bit there.
No, I definitely wouldn't be too perturbed by that. Soup, we are soon starting to think about pit window for the prototypes here. They are going to be thinking about 40 minutes as pretty much a benchmark. You try and get to about halfway, 45 minutes, that would be great. But when it comes to picking a window, where's the right place to jump in? That's going to be in the back of the mind. Speaking of back of the mind, Paul Gibson has actually made a pass on Carter Kundinger. So Kundinger's been caught out by Paul Gibson here, who's done well to bring himself back into 5th place.
Yeah, remember, Kundinger was making that run through the field, and now they are in traffic right now. Gibson just working his way around. Who is that? He's trying to go around there. That is Adam Berry. Yeah, Joey Atterbury to get that done. And Kundinger following through. As we watch this battle, we don't need to go there, but I want to talk about what's going on in 2nd and 3rd. You talked about Olsen. Look, Kundinger right on the back there as I tried to multitask. You talked about Olsen trying to run down the leader, but really the story there is how Olsen has been able to run away from Ohms, who has really dropped out of any chance of getting into 2nd place, as Kundinger now, as they work their way around the GT car of Thomas. And now also in the mix, that is Gruselli, who had that incident earlier on. Great 3-car battle here.
Oh, just struggling a little bit on the inside there as Carter Kundinger there. Had a little bit of scrubbing going through the middle of the corner, and they all tuck in, and they're trying to make sure they're not losing anything. I would not want to be a GT car here. Big power move by Paul Gibson through turn 1. It's going to cover it off. Just about gets the line that he wants. The Audi's got pretty much nowhere to go. Where do you go on the brakes? Gruselski almost into the back there of Kundinger in at turn 3. They all somehow manage, but they're all getting bottled up here. Jesse Lyon now, the bottle up. It's like everyone's ready. I want to make an overtake, but everyone gets caught up in the same sort of section. It's like, no, you've got to put the Jack in the Box back through. Here, finally, comes Carter Kundinger to the inside at the hotel hairpin. Gibson, nothing to do with. That's an incredible lap.
And watching that, I think the fastest car out of the 3 of them is Gruselski now. He's really been in a groove. He's been able to make up time after having issues. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to run them now, but look how traffic now has caught him out of the mix.
Well, it gives and it takes away, and it's taken away from Gruselski, who did well to close up half a lap ago, or 2/3 of a lap ago now, and ultimately now he's got more work to try and bring that group back into range. Let's go up, though, in the GT category to 2nd and 3rd. We've left it for a little bit here at this point in time, but Wayne Castile, Ross Booth, they've all been trying to stay relatively close, and they've had own category lap traffic there. That is the amateur Audi of James Stacey that they've just had to get by there, Michael.
Yeah, James Stacey trying to hold on as best he can. He just had all through our podium from the GT class, from the GT Pro class, all just overtake him. It's a little a little frustrating at times when you're out there and you're doing what you can, and then someone comes along in the same class car and just kind of blows your door off after only about a half an hour into this race. But I gotta say, good job for holding position, being predictable, and allowing these faster drivers to get through.
two pit stop race for the prototypes, and the first one to bite is Paul Gibson. We just saw him in that battle with Kundinger. He backs out of that one. He's going to go in. Michael, if I remember right, when we did our opening round, it was a 90-minute one as well. I don't think they changed tires. If memory serves, everyone tried to do it on one sit.
As I recall, yeah, most everybody did. Here, I am curious because this is a very scrubby little track. It'll eat up these tires pretty quickly. So I'm curious if we're going to see any tire changes in the first pit stop. I doubt it. In the second, though, is where I think it's these guys are probably going to be doing it. Now, on the GT3s, chances are pretty good those front tires are getting a little workout more than they were expecting, especially with the temperature sitting where it is. So I expect we'll probably see some GT3s making a tire change as well.
We certainly should be seeing those as we take a look at the number 32. Only for the briefest moment there of Nate Olsen as we focus on your AM category leader, Patrick McDaniel, here in GT AM, dealing with Robert Cast just behind, who has caught up nicely in the number 42 Porsche, looking to give some chase out there on circuits. They go through the Bishop's Bend and look to try and make this race happen. Now, one of the key things for amateur drivers, Michael, when they go out in a series like this, they've got quick drivers in prototype, they've got the GT Pro drivers who are there as well with them. One of the issues that they're going to have is that they're not going to be as quick. But how important is it to race with quicker drivers to build up that experience level?
There's a lot to be gained from observing what other people do, both better than you and not as good as you. You're going to see things as we watch. That looked like a little bit of a drift through turn 17 there. Really well done. But Robert Cass, who's up 9 positions, is trying to take that position
through the middle
from him, right through the middle. Whoa, that's fun. But yeah, these guys, Robert Cass is able to make it around. But yeah, as the amateur driver here, as the person with ostensibly less experience, it's interesting to see how much more speed somebody can carry, how much later or earlier in some cases they hit the brakes.
Suit P2 overall, which has just come down in. Everyone, top 3 have all come in for their pit stops. Ooms and Olsen just had a very, very scary moment out there because Joey Atterbury very nearly lost the car in front of both of them.
They did. I saw that indeed. They were lucky to get away with that one. All 3 came in at the exact same time. They come out in the same order they went in. I think maybe Ooms might have picked up a little bit in the pit stops, but he's well far back now.
Oh, I don't think so. He's right there on the rear.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Jake. I thought so.
He's absolutely there. He wants to get through 2 bits of traffic here. Robert Cass and Ryan Robertson to try and get by. Look how aggressive Nathan Olsen's being. He knows he's got to build a gap, and that just gave him about 6 car lengths there, Soup, just by deciding, nope, I've got priority. I'm going to be aggressive. You're going to either move out of the way or we're going to have an accident. Very Ayrton Senna-like.
Indeed. Big winner in that, as I thought was Ooms. Then he blinked away from me. I thought he disappeared there for a minute. Yeah, he was well behind Olsen on that battle. Now, we still have the driver out there. Some guys haven't come in. Paul Darling yet to make a stop. He'll be coming in this time. Oh, did he? Okay.
Yep, so Paul Darling will make his stop. He will hand back over reins then of the race lead. First pit stop of 2 predicted here for your leaders then of your LMP2 category here in your Autobahn Sports Car Challenge, the 4th round overall, as the likes of P2 and P3 now regain their positions, as Ooms, the 3 in 3rd, will now look to try and chase down the 32 in the 2nd, which goes through.
Looks like we had an incident back here. Our leader, no, McDaniel was able to make it through. Robert Cast, who had gotten around him, had a side-by-side incident going through turn 1. That's going to put him back down, but he's still up 4 on the day. So I think he can work his way back up.
As Cass and Robertson got together. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, it was. And the key there is when do you turn in from the outside? We'll see it on the FTF replay here. It's about turn in. And when's the right time, Michael, to make the turn in? He gets alongside to the inside, but it just looks there like Ryan doesn't notice it too late. He goes to take his natural line, and oh, look, there's a Porsche on the inside.
Yeah, the Porsche is really quick here, and honestly, it's been quick everywhere. It'll be interesting to see the update as it comes out tomorrow for the iRacing service to see if they slow the Porsche down a little bit. The Porsche has been very clearly the dominant car, especially in this series.
Balance of performance is always a great talking point. More drivers then looking to make their pit stops out there on as they go through. I have just heard the O3 get on the radio and say pitting, which is quite an interesting decision here for Ross Booth, because if he is deciding that he wants to come in this time, he'll be one of the first of the GT category, and he will be coming in because they want to reach around 50 minutes to get through, and they will have their race. So you'd expect then a lot of drivers to come in, and they have. Shirazzi, your leader, Michael. Castile in second. Booth in third. Top three, they're all in.
I'm wondering if that was a little call out to say, hey guys, let's go ahead and pit now, and we'll work this out in a real race here through to the end. I know I've worked things out like that in the past where I'll flick a light or something, so we all know that we're gonna go into the pits. But it's racing. Sometimes you want to do that.
It does put Mitchell Johnson in the race lead. Great pit stops from everybody. So Shirazi comes out then with Castile and Booth quite nicely, but pretty much everybody else has decided they want to come in. It's a very barren field right now in your GT categories, because they've almost all decided that they wanted to come in at exactly the same point. Speaking of drivers who have made good progress here, Soup, we've been keeping an eye out on Vance Bow, and he's found his way to Nikhil Kopkar right now, and I think the blue lights will be flashing on Vance Bow as he tries to reel in the Kopkar.
And indeed, Bow has actually made his stop too, so making a great charge through as he's currently racing. What would he be in now? I guess would be, seventh position overall.
Yep, 7th position overall, and the chase very much on. We're going to step aside for one moment here. Pit stop window just coming to a close here in the Autobahn Sports Car Challenge here with FTF.gg. We just saw Paul Darling get turned around by J.R. Gregory, the GT-AM driver that's taken him out of 5th position then in this race. Soup, it is almost the exact same thing. We got a curse here at FTF. Every time we're just about to come back to live, some prototype finds himself with a GT car over at the Hotel Hairpin.
Yeah, we went to break and all heck broke out. And so Darling gets turned around. And also, right as we went to break, we should note, you can see it on the tower when we bring it up, come back to live, that Jeffrey Ohms was able to get around Nathan Olson to get back 2nd place.
Yeah, so positions changing about then in the prototype field right now as the chasing happens then on this front stretch as they run through to Sunset Bend, or the back stretch as it is to Sunset Bend. Very, very late stages of the lap. Try and run through a little bit wide off of the exit, and there's trouble. Ooms is around. Jeffrey Ooms from 2nd position is around and at the Big Bend, I believe it is, going through. So that was trying to lap Jimbo Pfeiffer. Oh, this is where traffic miscommunicates here. Michael, I want your opinion on this. Jimbo Pfeiffer, I think, moved to get out of the way of Jeffrey Ooms, who was absolutely going for the outside, and he found barriers under the bridge.
Yeah, with the closing speeds that happen here, you cannot be unpredictable. And right there, you see how he just kind of fades. I mean, granted, I like looking at the McLarens, gorgeous cars, but when you fade out like that, trying to get out of the way, trying to help, it does anything but help. So we're taking a look from on board right there. You see how he just kind of fades over to that left side. The normal line right there, hold tight to the right until you get past the bridge, and then you can let it come out. So I'm gonna have to call that one on the GT car. That was a bad mistake.
Our director gave us a good shot of that, but the guy who really had the best point of view was Nathan Olson. It happened right in front of him, racing 3rd at the time in the prototypes, was able to sneak through.
Yeah, he was. And Soup, you know, you look at Jimbo Pfeiffer as a driver, he's someone who's been around. That does not look healthy at the front. Who's that as Olsen's just passed? That is not a very healthy car at all in the slightest. That's Matthew Gosh, who's managed to get the car back out and going again, is down 16 laps and decided, you know what? The front splitter, the hood, it's not there. You can see all of the engine. God, I wouldn't want to be an aerodynamicist. I'd have a nightmare over that.
Absolutely. It's not turning in. Oh, it looks like
going anymore.
Yeah. Now he's like, yeah, this is not a good thing. I'm just messing up everybody else's day.
Yeah, good decision. Bring it back into the pits. You're 16 laps down. So that will be the end of challenging there. So a few updates then. Fiallo leads, Olsen 2nd, and Billy Smith the 2nd is in 3rd. Grzelski back to 4th, Kundinger 5th. That is how your top 5 looks then after the halfway stage in your prototypes. In GT for the Pro Division, it's Johan Shirazzi who leads, with Wayne Castile 2nd, Ross Booth 3rd, Nathan Jew in 4th position, and Bradley Haley, haven't talked about him today. He's doing a great job in 5th. In AM, it's closed right up. Patrick McDaniel is your leader. Nicholas Davis right behind him is 2nd. And then you've got Robert Rattray in 3rd. Corey Ensing still in 4th. And then Franco Margarella rounding out the top 5. Nicholas Davis having a wonderful, wonderful race right now here, Michael. Started 46th on the grid. He is up 14 places and challenging for the AM lead.
Well, yeah, it's interesting here. This track can really help someone who finds the flow. I often talk about how every track kind of has its own song, its own flow. And if you're singing the right song and it just fits, it doesn't matter where you qualify, you're going to work your way through. And I think that's kind of what he's got going on right here. It just, this track speaks to him. He's singing the song, he's playing the rhythm. He's doing a nice job getting up where he is.
Soup, we've had troubles for the number 4. Nikhil Kopkar is out of the race in the prototypes.
Yeah, he was been struggling of late. He's fallen back. I don't have it on my screen, but yeah, he's dropped back. He was racing up front, was in that battle. A lot of those guys have fallen out. We also mentioned, you know, we were talking about Darling had issues. Paul Gibson now is down into 6th position. It's starting to shake up a little bit.
Well, let's take a look here on the FTF replay then and see exactly what's gone on. And this looks like car versus car battle then. They head to Sunset Bend. Oh, that's not where you want to be having a massive incident like that. That is a huge off there at Sunset Bend. And it is the most traditional accident that you can have at that section of road. It looks like maybe that would have been with Dominic Dernenberg out there. That would have been where the issue happened, Soup. But that is the most traditional accident you can have at Sunset Bend. 2 into 1, trying to vie for the inside at the beginning of the corner. That doesn't work.
Well, it's the nature of the corner. Michael was talking about it earlier. There's no real best racing line in there. So you think you're on the racing line, somebody else thinks they're on the best racing line. That happens a lot. It reminds me a lot of Cleveland, the old Cleveland Airport racetrack. Now that first corner so wide that you could go into it so many different ways.
Yeah, we also note that Jason Iverson, the GT Am, has got the black and orange mechanical flag. So his race is all over and done with for this because, of course, there are no fast repairs when it comes to this series. But we focus now on the 32 here of Nathan Olsen. That gap out to 8.9 seconds when they crossed the line. I think for Nathan Olsen, he was very much closing the gap down, Soup. But, you know, Dion Fiallo, he's been pretty much everywhere in sim racing, has done so much amazing stuff. Dion Fiallo was part of a pretty much world-renowned endurance sim racing team. He was part of the same sim racing team with Marcus Hamilton and co when he was at Thrustmaster Movano and when Movano was absolutely ruling the roost of iRacing special events.
As you look at the tower, the race I want you now to keep an eye on, because I think everybody's pretty much settled into their spot, except for Gruselski. I think he's got another 45 minutes or something to catch Smith. That's a possibility.
It's very much a possibility. We're going to keep an eye on it, and we should also keep an eye out on the GT Pro lead here, Michael, because that gap's come down to 1.5 seconds. Wayne Castile is just slowly, like an artisan with tools, chipping away at your race-leading 66.
Indeed he is, but I think that may just be a little bit of dealing with traffic. There is that prototype coming through, and I think that kind of slowed some things down and maybe pick up a draft here and there. But now we're back out to about 1.6 seconds as we watch them work their way down that the straight coming into turn 17. This is going to be where I think the wing angle is going to make a big difference. And it doesn't make a difference until you hit about 135, 140 miles per hour, and you're only hitting about 155, 160 miles per hour when you come down that straightaway in these GT3 cars. Now let's watch as they come along. We're out to 1.8 seconds between them. So Shirazi opening it up just a bit as they go through turn 17. Is he going to open it up a little bit more through 1? It looks like, yeah, about 1.7. More or less a tenth there. So it's getting interesting to see how the two drivers have chosen to take a different tack when it comes to how to do their setup and their aerodynamics.
I'll give you a hint here on how they've done it, Michael. I was looking at the numbers. Wayne Castile was 250 kilometers an hour on the brakes into the final corner there at turn 17, Sunset Bend. Johan Shirazi was up at 252 kilometers an hour going through. So 2 kilometers an hour.
That'll do it. Then you only need a little bit, 2 kilometers, about a mile per hour. That's all you need sometimes. And also realize Castile was in the draft of Shirazi at that distance, at that 1.5 second, 1.6 seconds, you're still getting a little bit of help from draft. So even with a little draft help, it wasn't enough to close it in.
Just a little bit. David Schutt has got himself in a battle with Brian Bennett as we were focusing on the prototype just in front. Robert Tinsey up now into 8th position, the mastermind of avoiding all of the traffic as he tries to go through. But behind that is honestly an incredible battle here as it goes through. They cross the beams behind for places, and there it is. And Brian Bennett, he's doing everything in his power right now to keep David Schutt shut up.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. You've got two very different cars. The Audi really does like those tighter sections, but now it comes a chance to stretch those legs. We've come out of tower. That BMW is able to stretch those legs and try to open or close down that gap But when you got a prototype coming through there, who's it going to mess up? It looks like it's going to take some time out of that Audi, as he had to brake a little bit earlier to stay out of the side of that prototype. Now they're going to come off of Le Mans. And now another prototype, probably two, going to come through here. Is the BMW going to get the nose out? Looks like the prototype is leaving some room for him to do that. So there he goes, pops the nose out, going into 17, one of the 17 different entries. Both of them try to find their apex power on just before you get to the bridge. Looks like job is done and dusted.
Done, dusted, thank you very and much. The move is made, but the Audi is really tucking in underneath, sneaking to try and get past the BMW just in front. Not going to happen for Brian Bennett. He's going to have to fall back into line. There was a battle that just went through there, Soup. It was Joshua Wolf and Dominic Durnenberg who are both there trying to get that one going. That is the race for 9th position right now, just about a minute behind your overall leaders.
And again, Wolf leading Durnenberg. You know, as we look at the tower, I'm going to take you to Carter Kundinger real quick. That's car 02 in 5th position right now. Billy Smith, who's racing in 3rd, must be listening to the broadcast, because as soon as I thought that maybe Gruszewski might be able to run him down, Smith started to pick it up. The gap was 8 seconds. Now it's like 12 or 11. There you go. So that's not happening. As we're getting close to pit stops here in another 5 minutes. The question now, I thought Gruszewski had a chance at the podium. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kundinger might have a chance to get up there for 4th.
Yeah, Carter Kundinger then's got work to do. He's got about 3 seconds to close down on Nate Gruszewski. And on this lap, that gap looks like it's come down by a second to 2 seconds already. So the work being done, the massively aggressive line into Sunset Bend to get past the leader of your GT Pro field, Johan Shirazzi, there to make that pass, made and completed. And that was enough of an aggressive move that it's given him the 6-7 car lengths needed to put Paul Gibson on the back burner by 0.7 of a second. So focus is going to be very much about eyes forward. And Michael, as a driver, how often are you checking when you're in a battle on the car behind? And how often are you thinking about, okay, well, my race is in front of me and forward, I've just got to focus on the corners in front of me?
I think that depends on who it is behind me. If I've got Ryan DL behind me, I'm checking my mirrors quite a lot. If I've got Andy Lally, yeah, my mirrors, I'm going to be watching every opportunity, because those guys are amazing drivers. And if it's my teammate, I probably won't look quite as much, but I still need to know what's going on, because not every team keeps the same radio channel from all the cars in the same class. Some do, some don't. So you don't necessarily have that communication.
Patrick McDaniel's around at turn 1, out on track. He was the leading AM, racing with Nicholas Davis, was just behind, but just lost the place, and all of a sudden finds the spin out of turn 1, and that is trouble. And often we talk about this, Michael, that some drivers are better at qualifying than they are at racing, and sometimes those small mistakes can creep in. We'll have a look at it here, going through the opening corner. This is how quickly it can go wrong. Through the opening corner. Looks like he tapped the wall on the inside and it just sent him round.
Or he's got some tire wear on the rears that he just wasn't managing. The tire wear is heavier on the front here. Let's take a look on board. Yeah, that's the rear end coming around. I can see it right there. He just got a little bit too much going into that corner. Could have been some wing wash off those cars in front of him, but I think that was just trying to push a little bit too hard, trying to open up this gap a little bit too much. He's got 33-ish minutes left in this race. There was no need to try to push that hard.
As we go to prototypes, let's go to Gibson real quick in the prototypes. He's in the battle with Kundinger. They're side by side, and I think Gibson's going to finish this pass.
He has, and he's done it around the outside at turn 3 just to secure that off. So Paul Gibson, hats off. That is wonderfully done, but it's not over yet because they had to get around a bit of traffic there. That was Boyd Payne, the GT Am in the Mercedes. Not often we've seen too many Mercedes today, but the moment that they start racing about, they're going to have to look behind as well here, Soup, because Paul Darling is making his recovery as well.
This is really going to heat up because I think all 3 of these drivers, I may have overestimated the speed of Nate Gruszewski. I think all 3 of these guys are getting up to Gruszewski. By the time after pit stops are done, we'll see how this plays out. But I think we're going to have a really tight battle going on.
better call the pulls as they now try and charge down and get as much as possible. Ross Booth wasn't happy on the radio. He was saying they're getting a little bit close here, these prototypes, trying to get through these Delaras, and he actually just had a little bit of a tap with Joshua Wolf going through the Cunningham corner. So very, very quickly, the lap traffic starting not to play some ball, and that's going to be a little bit more worrisome the later on that they go here, Michael, that they are just starting to get a little bit more, okay, a bit more, I'm going to put my elbows out, this is my corner, my command.
And again, it comes back to, I don't care that you are in the faster class. I still have a race going on. And sometimes when you're closing in on somebody, you don't know where their race is. They may have just come out of the pits. They may be about to go into the pits. Their competitor that they were nose to tail with may have just gone into the pits. So you can't really go, oh, well, there's nobody around you. You're not racing. Oh, you are racing.
I think we've seen the same thing here. Soup Kundinger has turned around Dale Green, the GTM, and has lost the place to Paul Darling.
Oh, he was trying to stay in front of Darling, so he couldn't take his time, and he had to make the move, and man, it got him.
It got him. I wonder if we can catch it on an FTF replay if possible, because that was a massive, massive moment in the context of the race for 5th and 6th out there. So trying to get past the Ferrari, who was not going to budge, not going to move. That's not on. He didn't have the room.
No, Dale Green, he's got to put the car somewhere, and yeah, that was rough.
That was rough, and you know, that's something that for an amateur as well there, Michael, you know, they look at that move, they've said, okay, wait for the best place to try and do it. There's no point going 3, 4, 5. That takes your confidence away as a driver.
It does. When you're not playing well together, that often will just kind of take you off your game. You may have gotten into your groove, but at that point, it all goes away and you don't have the groove anymore. But what we're watching right here, as we've been watching a few other things go on, Johan Shirazi no longer has a gap in excess of 1.5 seconds. This is down to 0.5 second to Wayne Castile. It's about 3.5 seconds back to Ross Booth, but Johan and Wayne are now going to be going hammer and tongs. Let's see how they use this traffic here, though. We've got 2 of these prototypes sitting in front of them. Is Castile going to be able to hold on, or is Shirazi going to be able to tuck up under the wing and open up just a little bit more? Let's take a look at these guys as they go down this back straight again, and it opens up that gap.
Well, Wayne, how are you now? Good, and you? You're fine, thank you. That, then, for Wayne Castile, was him not too happy with Vance Bauer and Joshua Lahn. He wasn't happy with Lahn trying to stick his nose up the tower corner and try and find a way by him, because he thought that he would have had a really good run. But as he sits here for the GT lead overall, knowing how crucial this can be in the context of everything, the one thing we haven't really talked about today, Michael, it's the championship. It's the one thing we haven't really had a chance to talk about over at GT Pro, which Ross Booth is currently your championship leader on. Shirazi is currently second. And when you think about the driver who is in second position right now, in the context of the championship, Wayne Castile, he's way down the order right now, tied for 12th, because he missed the first round, and the second round, he only managed to score 23 points in second. He had a 15th place finish at Road America.
It happens sometimes. You just can't make a race, and you start having to put your drop weeks in there, and that's something that's kind of unique with racing in the virtual world. So missing that, it's hard to balance out where is he exactly. This is all going to shake out in the long run, and looking at the way Wayne Castile is racing right now, I think that 15th is kind of an anomaly. Missing the one race, well, that happens. So the rest of the races, I expect to see Wayne Castile right up here at the pointy end.
Oh, I love the way that Wayne Castile's using the radio as well here. And Soup, this is something that you'd absolutely love as a prototype, which is, wait, we're having a battle for the race lead here. You get extra information given to you.
Indeed. You know, let's go to Gibson again, because I think this is hidden up. This is Gibson now. We talked about Billy Smith. Billy Smith trying to get in. Now he gets stuck behind the car. That's Scott Angelo trying to get out of the way. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's Paul Darling trying to run down Gibson.
Yeah, Paul Darling there, and still Carter Kundinger. They're all there. 1, 2, and 3 in a line. The race for 5th, 6th, and 7th. Trying to chase down Grzelski, who is 1.7 seconds down the road. That's all starting to just close itself back up, and every little bit of traffic becomes very, very important in the context of the race. Just behind that, over at turn 1, there's still the GT lead overall here, Michael. And into that opening corner, Castile can't get close enough to make that move, and he is fighting against that rear spoiler that is there for Johan Shirazi, which is slightly more trimmed.
Slightly more trim, giving him a little more speed down the straightaway. But as they went into turn 17, I saw Wayne taking a different line than he had been taking before. So I think he's now into that experimental phase. He needs to get out from underneath that wing when he goes into the corner and try to use the giant Porsche-sized hole that's being made as they work their way down the straightaway. These guys are in absolute lockstep. I haven't seen driving like this since, I don't know, probably the last Spec Miata race that I watched. These guys are absolutely nose to tail. They are in perfect sync of when they're going to go into brakes.
Billy Smith is down in the pits then for his second and final stop. We are in the final pit window here, Soup. Now for your Dallara P217 LMP2 prototypes.
Yeah, Smith will come in the first one to come in. I think Fialo's going to come in pretty soon, too. He didn't wait too long.
Yeah, Dion Fiallo then, your race leader. He's going to think about coming through. Now, pressure on here. Castile Shirazi. Chris Sherburn's just gone through, who's the last of the drivers then on the board for your LMPs. He's in 18th position. Justin Kirby, stuck behind now, is going to go through. But the question again for Wayne Castile, how much can he close down that gap? Cheeky from Johan Shirazi. He's trying to snipe a little bit of draft off of the lap traffic that's just gone through. So that's going to cover off his move into sunset.
It will indeed. Now this time Wayne takes a little bit wider line on the intro, and he's trying to open it up to get the power down. He is right up under this wing. It's hard to see from here, but he's almost pushing Johan down this straightaway. Had to lift out a little bit to make his way into this corner, because otherwise it would have been pretty nasty for the two of them, and that would have put Ross Booth in the lead.
Yeah, Ross Booth is not a million miles away. He's about 3 seconds back, so he'll be loving this as the championship leader, seeing the top two in front of him, racing out there for position. And if those two come together, well, he is the big beneficiary of all of that. Dion Fiallo is about to put a lap on those two drivers at this point. His lead at the front, 10 seconds at this point. Castile still on the brakes, getting as close as he possibly can. And I just wonder at this stage, Michael, how much he's going to want to sit and wait. How long does he want to give that one? There goes Dion Fiallo going by, your race leader in the number 2 in the pretty blue out there at this point. Castile searching everywhere, but does slightly miss the line then at Cunningham Corner, and that's going to put him another car length back here by the time he gets to Tower.
Yeah, but he's set up nicely for Tower. I don't think that was unplanned. I think he wanted to open it up a little bit so he could get the power down, get his braking zone, his braking point in, so he could make this blast. I give him 2 laps before this ends up switching positions, because these guys going like this, I think Shirazi's been pushing it a little bit hard, and with that less downforce on the car, he's sliding around a bit more, and he's got less tire. So I expect, I'm going to call it 2 laps, maybe 3 before this ends up flip-flopping.
Well, on the brakes, just at the right time with the lap traffic there as they go through. We've been keeping an eye out on who's making calls to jump into the pits. We haven't really seen Soup too much. Just exiting the pits right now is Robert Tinsey, so he's just made his final pit stop of the day. But we still wait for Grzelski, Darling. Oh, Paul Darling's actually just had a massive off at Gendebien.
As we'll take a look at that, Paul Gibson's also made a stop. He was in that battle with Darling. I was going to be interesting to see how Gibson came out in relationship to Darling, but now with Darling having this issue, that's kind of going to be moot.
I wonder if it was an abandoned stage left as he went through, because that is not the traditional line he took. He was over in the grass, which is not often that you get to say that at Gender BN Corner, that you found grass on a track which is primarily out there, especially at that section of the track. That's where all the concrete's there from the old airfield strips that you ran through. Wow.
It's pretty crazy on these airfield strips because it's almost all concrete. Some hard surface coming up onto grass is very rare, but this has been a race course for a very long time, since I want to say sometime in the 50s, if I'm correct, or late 40s. So yeah, this has been a racetrack for a while, and this grass is well established where it is.
Oh, it really is, and there hasn't been much change around this circuit. Oh, a little bit of a tail kick going through there for Darling, so still having a little bit more to deal with in terms of the machinery right now. 21 minutes remaining here in this race, and everything was going through. Now, something that we're listening into here, Michael, is what is Wayne Castile doing? And we might be hearing a little bit of clutching as he goes through on this section. Now, is he trying to play the fuel game here and try and outlast Johan Shirazi in this race?
It could be, but I think that might be a little gamesmanship going on, because look at him right here.
Look at the run.
The beautiful run. Oh, he can almost pinch him down to the inside. Look at this. Johan is holding that inside line. Now, the outside line here, you can pass on the outside if you time it right and you really trust the person who's on your inside. He's trying to make this happen. Look at this. It's a drag race going down into the braking zone. Oh, Johan is able to hold on to it, but no, goes back the other way, back and forth. Oh, a little bit of contact and into the wall for our previous leader.
Johan Shirazi's race over and out. Wayne Castile saying he hit the curb, and that's what got him in trouble. They were at it and at it and at it, and ultimately it was always going to be a race where no one would want to give up that race lead. And for Johan Shirazi, who has led every single lap, Michael, at this point, it is all over because the black and orange mechanical flag is there, and he's going to have to come down and get mandatory repairs inside the final 20 minutes.
That's really unfortunate for Johan. He was doing a really nice job holding on to that position. That was fair battling, and the contact, honestly, I would say that was fair as well. I don't think there was any intent there. Look at them just going side by side through the corner. Good little, there was a little bump going both ways. So I honestly don't think there's any ill intent going there. That was just really, really good racing.
Soup, weigh in for me here, because Wayne Castile, he's still got two tires on the surface. That's the key here. He's still entitled to that room as they go through. And the nature of turn number 4 as a corner, if you're wide through turn 3, you're right on the apex of turn 4.
You're asking me about racecraft? You're talking to the wrong guy. That's
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh. And caught up in that with Shirazi spinning is Paul Darling and Nathan Jew, who is in 4th position overall in class. This is going to give Bradley Haley the podium.
And that was insult to injury right there. He ended up having to put the power down. He's got issues going on. Oh, and Paul Darling, that looks like a wheel failure.
Rage. No, that's rage. That is pure rage. Yeah, that's rage.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. You can get away with that in iRacing.
You can sometimes, but it's frowned upon as a practice. Nate Grzelski then will dive into the pits. Nathan Olsen has made his final stop of the day as well, so he's now trying to get himself through. We're talking about these final pit stops here, Soup, now, and Dion Fiallo has got probably the easiest job in the world, which is he can choose when he wants to come in. I think he's actually just chosen.
He's already done it. Yeah,
he's chosen.
Yeah. Everybody's good to go. Let's take a look at find Gibson moves. I was watching Gibson came out in a battle. Let's see if it's still there. Kundinger and Gibson going at it.
Still there, side by side into one. Kundinger has to leave the room then on that inside. Paul Gibson gets through. They're navigating past Patrick McDaniel, the amateur driver who we've seen a lot of progress of during this race. He's back down into third in class in the GT AMS, but crucially for Paul Gibson, he's doing just enough to hold that margin. All of that battling, they've lost 10 seconds to Billy Smith out there, but this is a here, there, and everywhere style of race. You just got to keep yourself motoring at this point. And for Paul Gibson, you know, you look at the clock, 17 minutes. That's not too dissimilar to a sprint race. So you're just ticking off the laps one at a time.
It was really interesting because Gibson and Kundinger were in a battle. They pitted about 3 laps apart. Then when they came back out, they were right together again. And then Billy Smith has been having a nice, calm race. Was looking to, I think, going to probably get that podium when everybody makes that final stop.
Yeah, and once everyone is cycled out, of course, Grzelski, I believe, finds himself with Billy Smith. Actually, right now, this is actually quite crucial because I think with the way that the pit stops have just fallen out here, Soup, Nate Grzelski might have just got ahead.
Yeah, Grzelski was the guy that I thought was going to be able to run down Billy Smith. He was able to catch him in the pit stop cycle.
He might have done something very funky on fuel to make that happen because there was still a gap there for Billy Smith. And for Nate Grzelski, you know, 39 seconds, he was back. He would have made his pit stop, and he'll be off of the race lead. 36 seconds. Yeah, that was a great pit stop. He's done it absolutely fantastically, and he's done it on strategy.
Yeah, Billy Smith's at 46 seconds. So, yeah, there it is.
Absolutely wonderfully done then in terms of those moves. So Wayne Castile, your leader now in GT Pro. Ross Booth up to second. Nathan Dew did have the tap, but he's in third. And we got the McLaren, in fourth position of Ryan Wasilewski here. So some good work being done. In terms of GTM, we haven't really talked about GTM here today, Michael, but the key is Nicholas Davis. He's just been keeping it out of harm's way. He's racing Brian Bennett.
Yeah, he's right up on Brian Bennett's tail, and he's been there for a little while. He's trying to I think, just hold his position and enjoy where he is. He doesn't need to go that much farther ahead. He's got 1, 2, 3 cars between him and Corey Ensing, who is our P2 in the amateur class. So it's just a cruise home for the next 15 minutes.
Oh, and just as you say that, Soup, you've been keeping an eye on those battles between Gibson and Kundinger. They've been racing pretty much for the last hour solid, and they've just got through the battle that we just saw on screen. And every which way you look, you know, where do you want to go? David Shutt. Oh, he had to pretty much go, right, I'm staying in the middle. They're going both sides of me.
Yeah, it's Gibson out in front now, but I'm not done. I haven't got to the period of my sentence yet. By the time I finish it, it'll be different. Kundinger, they are really going at it. Those two guys in that battle. And then there's the battle we're watching as Grzelski can hold off Billy Smith. Billy Smith's got a ways to go. This one, though, between Gibson and Kundinger, way more exciting.
And behind as well, we got racing going on because, well, actually, we're still going to stay with Gibson and Kundinger out on circuits. They run into Sunset Bend. It's the amateur Chad Dick that they're going to have to try and get by right now in the orange Porsche, and they managed that, but here comes the move. It's going to be to the outside for Carter Kundinger to move up into the top 5 once again. Can he get it sorted? There's going to be traffic on the exit that they're going to have to worry about there. That's Ross Booth, who's just come out after making his final stop. Up and under goes Carter Kundinger to the inside, and he gets it done at 3 and gets the pass scored complete.
For now.
Little confused on Booth, though. That seems to be an extra stop for him.
You think they're two-stopping?
Need to. Yeah, I think he two-stopped on this one. I don't know what happened.
Well, remember, they came in at 53 minutes. I wonder if they're tank limited.
That could be. They may be tank limited and have to do a splash and dash to make it to the end. So if we start seeing Castile, Jew, and all the crew up there in the front diving in the next couple of laps, then we'll know.
We will, and we know that Wayne Castile was clutching a little bit, so if you can extend his stint out as much as possible, he is going to be very happy. As a retirement confirmed for Johan Shirazi, of course, who was involved in that incident for the race leader GT Pro, and that, of course, not a surprise as we go through. There is, right now, the 03 machine of Ross Booth making his way along the Flying Fortress Straight over through the Bishop's Corner to Gendre Bien. Now, this section of 3 here, Michael, is probably one of the most amazing sections of track to get right. And mostly because iRacing doesn't punish you for going all the way out over the white line with all 4 tires to turn in for that Le Mans corner.
You are able to get out there pretty far. You can get too far. I can tell you from experience that iRacing will ding you if you get too far out there, but you do really need to set up pretty wide left. And that is absolutely in line with what we do in real life. When we're out here in the IMSA races and we are setting up for that corner, yeah, we're pretty far out there and trying to bounce over that curb on the inside of Le Mans.
And into the pits comes all the GT. So yes, they will be fuel limited then on a 2-stop strategy out there. Jesse Lyons in the pits, Wasilewski, Nathan Zhu's just come down in and made a stop. So everybody now here, Michael, is making that final stage stop. Robert Cast has just come down in to make a stop. And there is a very purple Porsche of Wayne Castile still out there in front. Oh, actually, he's just come out and made his stop. And Ross Booth, well, he's still there behind, but that gap, it's close.
This is a total splash and dash. They did not need much fuel here. And look at this. This is team hunting right now. These guys are working together as a team, no doubt, trying to catch up to the leader, or the leader apparent, should we say, in Wayne Castile. Mitchell Johnson's still out there. I don't know if Mitchell's been trying to save on fuel or something, but this could get interesting right here at the end.
No, this is crucial because he went 1 lap longer, Michael, and that first stint did Mitchell Johnson. He might have 2 extra laps, but again, he's still going to be short if he can't get it home.
Yeah, he's probably doing a little fuel saving, but I don't think you can save enough fuel to make it there. I think if you put it into full course yellow mode, so in these cars, you have a fuel switch on your steering wheel where you can go from mode 4, which is full on, full tilt boogie racing, to 3, 2, 1, and even 0, which is typically your full course yellow setting. So you're not using as much fuel. You can still race there and still maintain a pretty decent pace, possibly enough. Oh, there we go. Diving in for that pit stop. That's going to be the end of that.
Well, we know that Gorsh is out on track. You can't miss him out there, but in comes the pit stop, and Wayne Castile will move back out then to the race lead here in GT Pro, with Ross Booth trying to hunt him down. The gap 2.3 seconds to chase down in the final stages of this race. A little bit of help is going to be needed then as they go through. Soup, it is still Cundinger and Gibson. It is still side by side, and it's still all the way up to Cunningham Corner. Cundinger on the inside still can't quite get there. Gibson shuts him off.
All right, so now Gibson gets that pass made, but don't count out on Cundinger will be back. You know what? I'll jump you up quickly to a guy that I can't figure out. Car number 69, racing in 3rd position. This is Nate Grzelski. I thought for a while he was going to be able to run down Billy Smith, but then I said, no, he's not. He's going to be trouble to even get a podium. He'd be lucky if he finishes 7th or 8th. But now he's got the pace back again. Billy Smith is trying everything he can do to catch him. I think Grzelski is going to get that podium.
Grzelski sold his way up to 3rd position, but you got to worry about his fuel numbers with the way that he's undercutting the stops. So that's going to be the one thing that maybe you look at in the final stages. Does he have enough? Oh,
he's not nursing it. That's the whole point. I thought
wow,
so too,
he's
man.
flying.
He is flying, yeah.
Just looking at last lap, he did a 48.6. He took 3/10 out of Billy Smith through the traffic. So, yeah, no, he's absolutely flying. He's doing exactly what he needs to do here. Nate Grzelski. Now, look at it on paper here, Sue, because he actually just gets slightly wide through turn 3. On paper, it says he started in 3rd position, and he's racing about right now in 3rd position. That doesn't tell the story.
It's not even close. He was way back. He's fought up and did a pit stop strategy to get up there. But it's really been the fascinating driver of the race.
Oh, he has, and he's done absolutely fantastically to get himself into the position that he's wanted to. Paul Gibson, though, I think has got away from Carter Cundinger out there on track. And for Carter Cundinger, he knows that his race, he can't quite close it back up again. So there is still that in terms of, can I bring that back? But in terms of the racing, going through some of the traffic there, not quite sure who that was that Grzelski's just managed to make a pass on. That's Joey Atterbury actually in a race right now here with one of the AMs, Franco Margarella, who's had a very quiet, understated race, up 5 spots. That's what we call a progress race, just staying in the motion, in the range. And I think here, Michael, it's been working here for Franco, who's shown a good accounting of himself today.
Yeah, a lot of times you come out to the race and you're like, oh, I'm going to just put the hammer down and I'm going to tear it up every single lap. Other times you're like, I'm not so good at this track. I don't know what to do. But honestly, the best thing you can do at any time when you come out to the racetrack is just get into a groove. And that's exactly what he's done. He's found a groove. He's just putting the laps down and putting down some pretty good ones.
GT AM lead, there has been a change, and it's Corey Ensing who is ahead now of Nicholas Davis. So Davis, who looked like he was just about ready to wrap it up in a nice, neat bow, suddenly there's a BMW here, Michael, and he's leading class.
Indeed, he is. That BMW of Ensing finally was able to get the legs to get around. We watched a little bit ago as he was able to get around there, but now we've got Nick Davis in that GT3R wants to close that up. He is hunting again. He's got a little bit better ability through the twisty sections, and with that BMW in front with those long legs, he's making a giant hole. If you look at the difference in size right there, you can see the BMW is just so much bigger. Now the advantage that the Cast has right now is there is that other Porsche right in front of him, also making a big giant hole for him. So he's able to get around here. Now we've got a prototype trying to work their way through, flashing the lights a little bit, trying to get through tower turn, and oh, wow, that could have been a real story changer right there.
Yep, because that was Nate Grzelski going by. Billy Smith II on the lights as well. He's trying to get through, and he is going to get through in such a way that it's going to compromise Corey Ensing's run here. So the race on for 3rd and 4th position. It's just been ruined by Dan Neese, as Dan Neese decided he wanted to dive through at Le Mans corner. Nicholas Davis is going to have to do more work here to catch Corey Ensing back up in the final 5.5 minutes of this race. And it's going to be a crucial end to this race because it will depend here, Soup, on when number 2, the race leader, Dion Fiallo, decides to cross the start-finish stripe.
And especially if we're wondering about some of those drivers that are nursing to get around, some drivers do not need to go an extra lap.
No, they don't. And for those who are nursing, they really don't want an extra lap in this race. That much we can say outright here in this one. For Wayne Castile in his race, he's still got the margin over Ross Booth. It's a couple of seconds, but one mistake will cost. But at this point in time, there is your race leader overall, Dion Fiallo here, Soup. And when we talk about drivers who are absolutely on it and have been on it for year on year on year, this is one of the drivers that I look at in sim racing and go, he cementably could be a legend of the sim racing sport.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers that is so fast he actually drives off the screen. You don't get a lot of screen time with him when he just crushes the competition like this. It's good to see him on there. He's very smooth, but I've done enough of these Autobahn races to know we are not done yet. We got 4 minutes and 20 seconds before we know for sure anything can happen. Lap traffic's always the wild card.
Well, it's going to be 3 laps to go over the line for Dion Fiallo. That we can confirm. So 3 laps left here at Sebring, this 90-minute race, and you could argue with his 8-second lead, that's the most secure race out there. Wayne Castile and Ross Booth, this is where he's just coming up to right now in terms of trying to get by Ross Booth and co. Like, if you can get here, he's got Eddie Layton as well just in front, 13th position here. Michael, GT Pro, this is going to have to rely on a mistake here because Wayne Castile, he's driven a lights-out race today.
Yeah, Wayne has been doing a nice job. He's right about 2 minutes a lap. 1:59.3 was his best. His last lap was a 2-minute .264. He's kind of in cruise mode. There's a little bit of dealing with traffic from time to time. Ross Booth, though, he is still turning up the wick. He is in the low 59s. He wants to close this up, but he's still about 1.6 seconds off. I think there may be a fuel game being played here a little bit. If I were Castile, I would be trying to put in a little bit of false hope and then open it back up by running that 2-minute lap. That's exactly how you do that.
Yeah, that last lap, 0.8 of a second. Ross Booth was able to close down the gap. It's not going to be as much this time, I wouldn't have thought, but he's just tantamount on that range. And you need to be in about 1.3, 1.2, 1.1. That's when you really get the full benefits of the slipstream there, Michael.
Yeah, it starts about 1.6, 1.7 seconds back, but it really does make a huge difference when you get closer up into that 1.3, 1 second range. You get under a second, then you start getting issues as we watch that prototype dive in there, trying maybe to give him a little bit of a boost of speed, but you get closer than about a second, maybe 0.7 of a second, then you're looking at wing wash, and that makes it really difficult for you when you're going into a turn like turn 1 as they're coming up to now.
Yeah, and they'll have 2 laps to figure this out, so the gap remains open at this point. Not much we can say about that. Let's go back, though, to the GT-AM battle, which is still going on. Nicholas Davis is a little bit closer to Corey Ensing, but the issue that you've got is that BMW here, Michael, has the legs, and because it's got the legs over the Porsche's going to really struggle to get up close. It's going to need the Titan Twisties to go and help out.
Yeah, but look how close he is now. He is about as close as he can be and still be comfortable going into and out of turn 17 and then closing up as they get towards turn 1 through the non-turn 2 into the braking zone of 3. Watch these guys as they go into 3. I think you're going to see them close up a whole lot. Not just that accordion effect, not just that concertina effect, but it's going to close up by actual gap between the cars, and that's exactly where he needs to be to try to make the pressure on for that last lap.
In fact, Corey Ensing just took 0.4 out that last lap, did a 1:59.9 at the best possible time to do it. So Nicholas Davis is starting to find out that he's on the wrong side of the line and he needs to be gaining, not losing here in terms of this race, which we'll have for them 2 laps to go, depending on Dion Fiallo, if he does make that overtake suit, because we are coming up here to the white flag lap here at Sebring International Raceway. It is congested in and around him, but he has masterminded this race absolutely beautifully. Still got to go around some of the AM drivers like Shane Hunter's battle versus Scott Angelo.
Just worked his way around Mount Kudrowski. Then he cleared his way through Scott Angelo, doing a good job here through some of these guys. Shane Hunter really can just take his time here. Be careful, baby.
Yeah, be careful indeed. That is going to be one of the keys over this final lap, knowing that Dion Fiallo has been driving an absolutely fantastic race in terms of the AM battle. Wayne Castile has that gap, and again, it is opening up. Ross Booth, a 59.8, a 59.3 from Wayne Castile. That one is pretty much all over Red Rover. When it comes to Corey Ensing's race and Nicholas Davis, Davis is getting the rough end of the traffic. Dominic Dorenberg, has just gone through, and that puts him at just about a second, and Corey Ensing just needs a clean lap and he's going to be home and dry. So that brings a little bit into perspective of just how much these GT races have all come down and will come down to the final few corners of this race. They know that they've had an incredible run, but it was more plain sailing for Dion Fiallo as he rounds the Le Mans corner. He's got 1 corner left to put in the back of the mind. When it comes to racing, it's very difficult to find a time slot to go and race on the Americas, especially in endurance. And if you talk about a driver from the Americas who has been the king of endurance, you can't get a better resume than Dion Fiallo. Number 2 will round Sunset Bend. He'll have to thread the needle and win the race outright. Brilliant work. Dion Fiallo wins in your GT or in your LMPs with an incredible drive and display. Still on, of course, but we look here, Michael, towards Sunset Bend, and a great drive by Wayne Castile.
Yeah, Wayne Castile making his final entry into Sunset Bend. Ross Booth not too far behind him, closed up to about 2 seconds. It's been a back and forth, but going over that bumpy little bit, takes that inside wall, little celebratory. We'll probably see a light flash here any moment, or not. I would have flashed the lights, but beautiful finish there from Wayne Castile with Booth coming up right behind Nathan Jew in third. Let's go back to take a look at Corey Ensing, though. He is still working his way around, holding on with that BMW, the Porsche of Nicholas Davis, down to 7/10. He's only closed up about a tenth this lap. Can he bring it in? This is getting tight as they work their way into Gendebien, trying to get out on the left side, opening up this. Look at that. Oh, tries to take that little bit tighter corner. Oh, has he closed up? He has not closed up. He's still at 7/10. Looks like this one is going to be done and dusted.
He very nearly went aggressive to the inside, lost the back end, did Nicholas Davis. There was an instant in front of them. Robert Cast got taken out by David A. Williams on the final lap of the race, so they'll get an extra position in the overall standings as they come to the line. But Corey Ensing there, who snuck his way through. He didn't think he had much, but the BMW's found enough. He takes the GTM victory there in what was a race that had to go down to the final lap at the end of that. So some incredible results. The donuts are out then here in Florida. There is Dion Fiallo putting pretty much his mark down on this Sebring circuit, and some wonderful racing that's gone through. Let's go through classified results then here from the Sebring International Raceway. And Soup, well, let's have a little talk about what happened with the LMPs.
John Fiallo was banned. There was nobody who was going to come close to him. He had it his whole way. Nathan Olson was in that battle a little bit with Jeffrey Ooms. We're going to talk championship in a minute. Ooms has a horrible result, finishes well down the order. He's going to finish outside the points. Great run from Olson. I have no clue about Nate Gruselski. I've commentated for a long time. Usually I can figure out how a race is going to go. I thought he was going to get third. I thought maybe he'd be lucky to get eighth. Well, he got that podium spot. Billy Smith has to settle for fourth. Paul Gibson after him. He was in that battle with Kundinger. Once Gibson got around him and they got settled out, Kundinger fell back. Bob the Blade Tinsey in seventh position. Dominic Dornberg behind him in eighth. He was in a battle with Mo Islam. Dornberg was faster. Joshua Wolf was up and down a little bit. He comes home in 10th. Rounding out the rest of the prototypes that finished on the lead lap, Joshua Lane, Bow, Layden, Kirby, Nice. David Williams got in trouble early. Chris Sherburn. And then farther down the list, we'll just give a name. Shout out to all these guys. Paul Darling ran into trouble. We saw Cop Car have issues as well. And then we talked about Jeffrey Ohms, who's going to finish outside the points. Michael?
So in the GT class, hammer blow there. Wayne Castile driving it home. It is a Porsche 123 for Wayne Castile, Ross Booth, and Nathan Jew. Having a very interesting finish there. Ryan Wachelski bringing that fire-spitting McLaren into fourth. Fifth place will be Bradley Haley, Mitchell Johnson in sixth. Jesse Lyon, David Shutt, Brian Bennett, and Ryan Robertson are your top 10. Robertson being your first Ferrari with Bidwell and Thomas right behind there in the BMW. And in another BMW, Corey Ensing takes the win for the AM class in the GTs. Right behind him was Nicholas Davis, and looks like Robert Cast had finished in behind him. Third place in the AMs, I am going to say, is Patrick McDaniel, who did lead for a good little bit there. Joey Atterbury tucking in behind him, also racing the BMW today. And then the rest of the field, nice smattering of Porsches, BMWs, and Audis.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got a couple of AMGs in there too.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Boyd Payne, you can see that. And the Lamborghini, Sean Reese, 8 laps down. We get through the retirements now down there at the bottom of the order, like Jason Iverson. Johan Shirazi was a big retiree today. Jimbo Pfeiffer found himself down the order as well. The likes as well of Matthew Gosh. You couldn't miss Matthew Gosh's car today. It was a sight to see, that much I can say. James Stacey, Christopher Pies, and Ian Simon finding 61. Chad Noble's not taking to the grid then in this 62 car field overall. But some really promising signs there in terms of that race, Michael. I'll come to you first. 5 different manufacturers inside the top 10 of this race. That for a send-off of this view of Sebring before the brand new Art of Sebring comes in the next iRacing build. We had a very, very good GT race today.
And I think when you look at AM and Pro together, even though it was a Porsche 123 in the Pro class, there was a McLaren right there. And then we had a BMW in the amateur class take the top spot of the podium. I think the BOP has been worked out pretty well here. All these drivers, you kind of have your pick of the car you want. And honestly, it doesn't matter. It almost comes down to what your personal preference is or who your sponsor wants you to race. If they want you in a Porsche, you're going to race the Porsche. If they want you in a Lamborghini, well, you're going to race that Lamborghini.
You absolutely are. And Soup, when it came to the LMPs, Dion Fiallo proved once again why he's such an incredible character. But this is a big day in terms of Jeffrey Ooms and the Simsa esports machine, because the way that he gets himself caught up in that incident is pretty much part and parcel of what happens in GT racing. You know, you get miscommunication sometimes, you get on the wrong side of the road, and then you find yourself in an incident. That one you got to chalk up to experience. There was nothing that Jeffrey Ooms could do to rectify that. You just have to learn from that, move on, and go, right, there's more races 2 weeks' time. It's 60 minutes at Indianapolis.
The rules package gives you 2 drop races, but you don't want to be saying at race 4, well, I'll use up my 2 drop races. There's a long way to go, and he's burned his 2 wild cards now, so he's going to have to be perfect from here on. And you want to talk about perfect? Wow, our race winner today. It's hard to be perfect when you have class racing like that. That was quite a demonstration.
Absolutely, it was. And as they say with drop weeks, it all comes out in the wash at the end of the season. So keep an eye on that season. It's important that you keep focus on what's going on. Also, make sure that you're with us. Subscribe to FTF.GG. Keep yourself up to date with all of the content that's bringing on through. And a massive thank you to the crew here today to get this through with us. Our director today was Zach Johnson, along with Michael Johnson, who has been along with me, as well as Bill Supzan for the ride. A massive, massive pleasure to bring you racing action then from the Autobahn Endurance Series here. The 12th season has been going on, and Sebring put up a showcase. It's victories for Fiallo, Castile, and Ensing, but it's a race which, for a lot of different scenarios, for a lot of different stories, there'll be some heroes, there'll be some villains, and there'll be some happy and sad faces up and down the paddock. They will go back home again to Indiana in 2 weeks' time, and that's where Autobahn is next. And with FTF, that's where we'll see you next time.